Testimony continued today in the most notorious criminal trial in Richland County. Dr. John Boyle is accused of killing his wife Maureen and burying her body.
The 12-year-old son finally took the stand.
Boyd confidently told the jury it was his decision to testify against his father.
I heard a scream. I heard a thud. It was about this loud.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty.
I decided at an early age that our trauma should not be what defines us. It's what we choose to do with it that does. I'm here to share my unique perspective on true crime, mental health, society, and popular culture, and always with a slight sense of humor. I'm Collier Landry, and welcome to my show. Mover Nation, what's going on? As always, I have my little sidekick here, Marisol. She has joined us, or Marisol, as we like to say. How are you, sweetheart? She's going to be here with me as a sidekick. Thank you all so much. Wow, what's going on with Karen Reed's case? Oh, my goodness. Guys, I live streamed the trial last week, if you didn't know, and it was wild, absolutely wild. I'm going to put her in her little house, and then we're going to get going on this. A few bits of housekeeping, though. First of all, welcome. Wherever you may be and however you may be watching or listening, thanks for making me a part of your day. I appreciate it. Good to see everyone. I wanted to say, to remind everyone, a little bit of housekeeping here. So this upcoming weekend, for members, channel members, we have our Collier's AV Club, which is happening. And we are going to, this is a scenario where we all get together and we watch either a film, a documentary, or a television show, or what have you, usually in the true crime vein, but, you know, we sometimes do other things too. We've screened my film, A Murder in Mansfield, on there. We've also screened, we did The Jinx, Part 2, Episode 1. We did The Tinder Swindler just for fun, all kinds of stuff. And I wanted to say, this week we were going to do a poll, but I just decided, you know what? We're going to do Dancing for the Devil, about the TikTok 7M dance cult. It is wild. And for those of you that don't know, so my background is as a cinematographer and a filmmaker, and I actually knew some of these dancers that are in this, cult, but are in this film, and or actually it's a series, really. And I was like, oh my God, I remember working with them on set, because I also did, if you guys are members, you'll see I did some stuff on World of Dance with Neo and a couple other people. And it's wild. So you have to be a Netflix subscriber, but you also have to be a channel member at the $7 level or above. But it's really awesome. We all get to sit and watch this film together and comment. And it's just like being on a live, and it's a lot of fun. So I have to say that for legal purposes, but however, I think you get the gist. If you can join us, please do that. It's a lot of fun. And of course, Marisol will also be there. Let me find her little camera, by the way. We have to have the princess and queen. We'll have to see what she's up to right now, if it'll work. Hey, there we go. Look at this. There she is. And she will be joining us. Marisol, say hi to everybody. Yeah, say hi. She also joins us for the live stream of the Karen Reed trial too, if you guys are curious. So she'll be here providing entertainment, as she likes to do. So I want to give a big shout out. So we have a few courtesy. Thank you so much, Black Widow, who is here. She gifted some membership system people. So we have some new members. We have Scooter 54, Lerpa Atil, Melissa T, Dr. MLS joined, Mystery Singer, Tara Ized, and Lauren Helms. Thank you all so much for joining the channel membership. I really appreciate it. And and we are going to be, just so you know, the little banner is going on, I believe, underneath this. I'm going to be covering the Karen Reed trial live, starting at very early here on the West Coast. We'll be providing the feed and a little commentary. That will start on Monday, and then Tuesday court is dark, and then we'll go back Monday through Friday to finish the week out, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, it'll be entertaining. I don't know how fun it'll be. It will be, however, entertaining. She is looking for some. You want water, sweetie? So I got to give her some water, guys, because you can't have an animal, be thirsty. Okay, here's some water. That was terrible. I just made a absolute mess in her. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I know. A bad daddy. She's looking at me like, what is happening? There's our Marisol cam. No, she's out of it. All right. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Say hi to everybody. I figure it's never a bad thing to have a dog on the show. And those of you know, I love my Chihuahuas, and Marisol is my little baby. Here we go. Some people also asked me, said it was cruel that I keep her in a cage. There you go. There's some little treats. Okay. I don't keep her in a cage. She has full run of the house, but when I am on the live, she is in her little safe cage. So she cannot get in trouble because she likes to do that. She likes to destroy things when daddy doesn't pay attention to her. So we've negotiated that I will have her next to me while I do all these lives. Okay. So full disclosure, as I always like to say in this program, I am not a doctor. I am not hold on. I always say I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a psychologist. I do not work in law enforcement. I'm just a guy who's been through a lot of shit. So there are a lot of people that provide legal commentary. I'm just here to provide you my unique perspective on true crime and all things pop culture, mental health, whatever have you. But specifically in this case, my experience having lived through this as a child and into adulthood. I made a film, a documentary filmmaker. I have a lot of sort of ancillary experiences, but never working across the bar, if you will. I've never passed the bar, but I do have a unique perspective. So if you're looking for legal advice, I'm not the guy. But if you're looking for a guy who's been through a lot of shit and wants to share some, you watch out type stories, that's what you, then I'm here for it. We are in subscriber only mode chat. So if you're a channel subscriber, please like, subscribe, remember all those things. I really, I love that. Is the gift link busted? I don't know, Gen X Granny. That's a great way. Dr. MLS says, my Chihuahua always felt very safe in his little bed inside his sleeping pen. Yes, she is very safe. I am bringing the popcorn to the movie. Yes, absolutely. On the outskirts, I will be doing that. And yeah, so welcome. Okay, so what is next in this case of Karen Reed? So we're going to go kind of do a little bit of a trial recap from the week because if you guys, again, I was new to watching this case live with you. So this week when I decided to live stream, whatever it was, Wednesday, I was like, I'm going to live stream the trial. What a cluster. I won't use the full version of the word, but what a nightmare. And as I've been learning about this case, I've been interviewing a lot of people, lawyers, law enforcement, commentators on true crime networks like Court TV and Scripps News, et cetera, Law and Crime, to sort of get my head around it. But then I watched the trial and I was like, oh my goodness, man, what as we say, a shit show. So I think there's a lot to cover here in the whole, what's next with this whole thing? So in the week recap, so on Monday, June 3rd, day 19, we had state crime lab analyst Maureen Hartnett testify about the damage to Karen Reed's SUV. The damage included a smashed taillight, scratches, and a single strand of human hair, which is interesting because if a car has to travel a long distance, how did we get to the single strand of hair surviving on someone's bumper? That's really weird. Lots of weird things in this case, for sure. I'm also checking to make sure that I don't put myself on mute. I tend to do that sometimes, and then you guys will get an oy vey, and that's what happens. So, yes. So the taillight, and then we saw pieces of said taillights on whatever the day that was, Wednesday, Tuesday. Tuesday, yeah. We saw said taillight pieces, and that was pretty wild. So she also testified about examining O'Keefe's sweatshirt, which he wore the night before while drinking with Karen Reed and others. She testified that she found red-brown stains and 13 rips and tears, particularly on the right sleeve, but could not state how the fibers and clothing was torn. Now, prosecutors agreed that the sweatshirt was torn and O'Keefe's arm was injured when he was allegedly hit and knocked to the ground by Reed's SUV. And I think a lot of this, and thank you so much, Jen, new member. Thank you very much for joining. Greatly appreciate your support. I think a lot of people are wondering how, obviously, there's scratches on John O'Keefe's arm. There is damage to his sweatshirt. There is damage to his head. How all of this could have played out by being backed into by an SUV. What they're alleging is 24 miles an hour, covering a span of, don't get me wrong, I think it's 62 feet that she had to back up. And I mean, it's just like so much of this doesn't make any sense, which literally calls to, I think this is why everybody's so obsessed with this case, because none of this makes any sense. Could this happen to you or I or anyone? Somebody wrote a very poignant comment in my comments recently about how members of a certain minority community have been addressing this for years, police corruption, et cetera, et cetera. And I have some people who are good friends of mine who are joining the program this next week. They have a podcast called After the Uprising, which is about the uprising and the riots in Ferguson after the killing of Michael Brown. And they did a season 2 about the murder of Darren Seals. That is my good friend, Ray Novoselsky, and his partner, Maria, who covered this too, as a former congresswoman. And of course, I'm going to mess up her last name because, why would I have everything at my fingertips when I need it the most? Maria Chappelle Nadal, who was a state senator in Missouri, and then she led this investigative team to research this. So it's interesting because if you remember Darren Seals' car, he was a rapper. This was 2016, August of 2016. His car was mysteriously set on fire, and when authorities came to put out the fire, they discovered that he was in there. So it's been a lot of speculation, but they had done this podcast through iHeart. They were nominated for an NAACP Image Award for season 1, and yeah, it's a great thing. So discussing how police corruption and things of that nature come into play was a topic that we talked about. However, in their case, as you discover, the podcast comes out on June 11th, by the way, which is Tuesday. You discover that there is a lot of good work that was done by police, surprisingly. Now, back to what I was saying here. So then we go into, the whole thing with Karen Reed, to sum all that up, is in fact, how can someone get what appears to be, I think a lot of us are kind of concurring, railroaded by a system, or at least in a trial where there does not seem to be competent prosecution going forward. It's an absolute mystery to me. And as I said, watching the trial live with you guys has been a real, I'm telling you, a real eye opener. I'm somebody who, I have a very unique perspective on the justice system because, as I always say, it worked for me. So I can't fault that. It worked for me. It worked for my family, but it wasn't through a lot of efforts. I don't know if it worked for my family. It most certainly didn't work for my father. That's for sure. But it is a system that is the best in the world. It really is. But this particular time watching this trial, you kind of scratch your head a little bit. So we heard from, obviously, these forensics experts. And then on June 5th, day 20, was the physical evidence. Ashley Valier, who works for the State Police Crime Lab, testified that she examined pieces of a damaged taillight housing from Reed's SUV that were found in the snow and explained how the pieces fit together. Defense attorney David Yannetti questioned how the items were delivered to the crime lab for testing, as the defense has suggested repeatedly that evidence was planted by corrupt investigators. Valier said Trooper Michael Proctor delivered the evidence in March of 2022, 6 weeks after the day O'Keefe died, which is wild. we can, of course, cut to a little video of this testimony, but actually we will not do that because it doesn't lead up to it, of my particular coverage of this. No, Michael Proctor, Trooper Michael Proctor, who we're going to get into a little bit later, was the lead investigator on the case and has been accused by Reed's defense team of planting physical evidence. Defense attorney David Yannetti asked Valier, quote, your chain of custody at the lab for the 2 shirts and the plastic that began on March 14th, 2022. So between January 29th, 2022 and March 14th, 2022, you don't know what Michael Proctor did with the evidence. And she said, I don't know. Christina Hanley, who also testified, and we can pull up this testimony. She is also a forensic expert, a forensic scientist at the state police lab, testified that she examined the broken cocktail glass found near O'Keefe's body and 5 pieces of glass found on the rear bumper of Reed's SUV. When asked by defense attorney Alan Jackson if a piece of glass submitted as evidence matched the pieces of the broken club, she said there was no physical match. I don't know if it's a broken club or we meant club glass, but she said there was no physical match. Massachusetts State Police Sergeant Yuri Buchanan, whose name has been confused for a lot of things, including by some witnesses earlier in the trial. I won't say what they called him. It was really funny. He testified about the numerous pieces of physical and digital evidence. And there is Yuri Buchanan testifying, holding up John O'Keefe's clothing, identifying it, etc., etc. He even at one point was referred to as Michael Proctor and then said, I'm not Michael Proctor. It was kind of funny. He had a lot of slips in the actual case when he was testifying. And I'm going to play just a little bit of that for you guys. Bear with me. I think this was it. Hey, there we go. Look at this. We know what we're doing. Fantastic. Oh, nope, that is the wrong one. Hold on. This is the right one. There we go.
And I do have that envelope, Mr. Lally. I have it.
Military Police School in Fort Leonard, Missouri, while I was enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. From there, I was stationed at Quantico, Virginia.
Quantico, Virginia.
With anyone did you speak with? We then spoke with Mr. Matt McCabe, and then we spoke with Mr. Brian Albert.
And with reference to each of those conversations, were they done collectively? Or
here he is.
How were those interviews conducted?
Examining the evidence. As I showed you in the picture. I'll go ahead and make this a little larger. And then we'll do this other thing that we like to do here. And we'll put me in the corner. There we go.
So, Lally, why don't you come take the bag?
And this whole thing was just very awkward. But what was way more awkward in all of this?
Yes, I'm going to look.
And there's Karen Reed in the end making a sort of comment to her lawyer. Let's see. Okay, here we go. This is quite interesting. I think she's over it. Marisol is blocking our view, but she says something here to her lawyer. Have you guys seen this TikToker who's a lip reader who lip reads red carpets and celebrities? It's really funny. She needs to be here lip reading what goes on in this courtroom. But so the court kind of ends rather abruptly, which I think is super weird to me. Let's go ahead and Marisol has decided to. Are we sleeping? Okay. She's going night nights. Is that what's happening, Puppins? There we go. We'll just keep her there. And we'll go to our setup here. So as we see, there is Sergeant Buchanan, Trooper Buchanan, examining his clothing. But the real kerfuffle, the real scuttlebutt of what was going on has been this whole scenario where this discussion of the flipped image. So on June 6th, so 8-7 on Thursday, June 6th. I'm trying to think of which day is which here. I base it mostly by the NBA finals, just so you know. Like, did the finals start on June the 6th? They started on June the 6th. So on Thursday, June 6th, the prosecution marched in this video of Karen Reed's car in the quote Sallyport. Now, for those of you that don't know what a Sallyport is, because I sure as hell don't know what a Sallyport is, it is a garage that has 4 doors. And when I was doing some research on it, because I've been researching a lot about this case, they're actually very dangerous. And they're places where people do prisoner exchanges often. And it can be very dangerous because there's 4 doors for people to run out of or have cars crash into to make said prisoners escape, etc., etc. What's her TikTok name? I don't remember what her name is. Liberator TikTok brings my nosy ass so much joy. Yeah, she's amazing. She was on the lip reading TikToker was on the Squid Game game show on Netflix. Mr. Beast did a Squid Game type game show too here on YouTube. I think he may have produced it for Netflix, but she was on the Squid Game game show. And she has been deaf since she was a child, but she actually speaks pretty well, from what I understand. You wouldn't know that she had any that she was deaf at all, but she also reads lips really, really well, which is kind of dangerous. But I think that she should, she's doing red carpet stuff just on her own. They should hire her on E, I swear to God. But she also should be a courtroom lip reader, because I think she would have fantastic insight into at least this trial. Sorry, I'm a little thirsty today. Okay, so Yuri Buchanan returned to the stand on Thursday, where he was questioned by defense attorney Alan Jackson regarding a video that shows Reed's SUV inside the garage of the Canton Police Department, the Sallyport. Jackson pointed out writing on another vehicle in the garage and on the garage door. And Buchanan said it was, quote, mirrored, but that he could not explain why, which is interesting. There's time code that goes on there. And I talked about this on Thursday during my trial recap. We went through it. We played some other video evidence as well that was sort of submitted. And this is the actual way that the image came in. But the defense attorney had noticed on the driver's side, or had noticed that the word police was inverted, and that's where this whole thing started. We're going to play. Oh, hello. We are going to play a little bit of this interesting video. Hello. Nope, didn't want that. This is from WCVB. I'm gonna share this because I think it's very interesting how the media covers these things.
Video of Reed's SUV that prosecutors showed to the jury may not be what it seems. This video appears to be flipped. The image of it, the defense says flipped on purpose. News Center 5's David Yannetti live at the courthouse in Dedham to explain more. David.
Erica, this revelation came at the end of today's testimony here, and it caught everyone off guard. Some jurors even looked at each other quizzically. Karen Reed's SUV into the Canton Police Department garage after it was seized as evidence. The video appears to show the passenger side, including the passenger side taillight, which prosecutors say was damaged after Reed allegedly backed into John O'Keefe and killed him.
I testify that this is a accurate scene.
But under cross-examination, state police investigator Yuri Buchanan confirmed the video is actually inverted. It shows not the passenger side, but the driver's side of the SUV. At one point, it shows the driver getting out.
Not once did you mention that this video is actually completely inverted.
So that is okay. So a couple of things, and this is, by the way, I'm not taking sides here. I am very much, I very much have been very well convinced that this whole thing is just absolutely nuts. But the security cameras do flip things, and therefore the time code could have been flipped. I mean, I'm a filmmaker, so I know these things. This image is flipped that you're looking at, right? It's going one way there, and it's going one way here. I flip it so I can look the same direction as we all are, right? It is something that is very, it's real, but it's really really shady. I mean, even though the video comes in flipped, the fact that they didn't say this is actually the passenger side, or this is actually the driver's side of the car, the video is just been inverted, I think is super suspect. That's what the defense is alleging. And I agree. I think so many people agree, because it's absolutely absurd. Why wouldn't you just clarify that? Because it's promoting a false narrative. Now, I guess they could argue, well, but it was inverted because this is the way it comes to us from Blink camera or Ring camera when we download it. And yes, that is absolutely true. That is how it comes. But the fact that they didn't say, hey, this is a reverse image, this is actually the driver's side door, not the passenger side, because it makes it look like it's so shady. It's so shady. It's so shady. And the fact that they do this is the thing I think that we're all just really hung up on in this case. Is how did they get away with it?
How did you discover that the image was inverted?
This is the best part.
I saw the word police and thought I had dyslexia.
In the video,
I mean, it's funny. You know,
Did you mention?
Look, hold on. It's really actually not funny. It's really absurd. I think it's ironic. Look, I'm somebody who's very much for victims and an advocate for them, coming from where I am. And by the way, I want to say thank you so much to Butt Dial Brian. Thank you for the super sticker, super chat. You say, I just want to say the story of how you testified in your father's trial is so heartbreaking. You're truly an inspiration. I wonder how you seem so comfortable on the stand. Sorry for being off topic. Thank you. Thank you so much for the support. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for contributing to the show and liking and subscribing and all that. I greatly appreciate it. Yeah, it's really difficult to be on a witness stand, just so you know, let alone when you're a child. I don't know how I did it. I was just an angry young man who wanted justice for my mother. That's pretty much it. But thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. It means the world to me. Back to this particular thing. I think that one of the things I keep talking about in this case is the fact that we have completely lost sight of John O'Keefe. And the more that this prosecution just continues to bumble this, when does his family get justice? If they just kind of throw their hands up in the air and say, well, we don't know any better. Do they look for someone else? Do they actually try to do the real police work? Did anyone try to do the real police work in this case? And it's just, every day you watch this trial, you're left scratching your head so much. It's, I'm telling you, it's wild.
This video is actually completely inverted.
I did not know.
How did you discover that the image was inverted?
I saw the word police and thought I had dyslexia.
In the video, the word police appears backwards on another vehicle parked in the garage. So does the number 4 on one of the garage's overhead doors. Defense attorney Alan Jackson believes it was no accident.
The timestamp across the bottom is not inverted, which means somebody had to put that on the inverted, the manipulated, the altered video on purpose.
Here is the video again after we have uninverted it. What is in fact the passenger side taillight is out of view, and there appears to be somebody standing near it.
Who's the guy in the watch cap, in the winter cap, back there by that right rear taillight the entire time by himself? That's Proctor.
Proctor is Trooper Michael Proctor, the lead investigator on the case. Now, the defense has said that he is the one who broke the taillight as part of an effort, they say, to frame Karen Reed. I did reach out to the district attorney's office about that inverted video. They said they would not comment.
Video of Reed.
Of course they won't. Of course they won't. Why would they? Why would they? It's just absolutely insane to me. Again, there you go. That's actually the driver's side. I mean, I think that's probably what I think that's the thing that most of us just really have the hardest time coming into grips with is how does this even happen? By the way, there's a sleeping chihuahua to let us so we all can see. There's a Marisol. There she is. We had a hard day of playing and walking, and treats were given. And yes, we've had a day so far. Yeah, and again, I'm as I like to say, my unique take on true crime, mental health, society, and popular culture, albeit with a slight sense of humor. I mean, seriously, always with a sense of humor. Again, it's really not funny because there are real lives at stake. Not only is there Karen Reed, whose freedom is at stake, right? There is the John O'Keefe, who is dead and who doesn't. It's like the Keystone Cops, and then you have these attorneys, and you have the courts, and you have the elected officials, and you have the community. And I spoke to somebody who off the record was sharing with me a lot about what's going on with the McCabe's and Brian Higgins and all of the Alberts, all the people in Canton, Mass, and how they are. It's really bad. That video is coming very, very soon. Yeah, they spoke to me as an informant. It's pretty wild. I can't wait to share that with you guys because it's going to be a great video. They share a lot of inside information that if you don't live there, you wouldn't know, or if you weren't connected to the police department, you wouldn't know. It's wild. Obviously, a lot of people have weighed in on this being very deceptive, this video, and misleading. But I would like to know what you guys think in the comments below. What do you guys think? How do you guys feel about this video? Because I think it's just completely. I think it's wrong. I mean, I think it's an attempt to mislead the jury, and it poses the question of really at this point, like, what is next? What is next this coming week in the trial, and what is sort of the, I don't know, the linchpin coming up? And that is, in my opinion, the thing that everyone's talking about, which they did confirm, the defense did confirm on Friday, that the prosecution will in fact be calling Trooper Michael Proctor, who has been the lead investigator on this case. And you can't even, like, this guy's a ghost online. You can hardly find anything about this guy. There's one photo. I added a little Massachusetts state badge to it. And he is currently being investigated by Internal Affairs for his conduct. There's also apparently a separate federal investigation as well into just the Canton Police Department as a whole. So it's just there's so much with this case. It's wild. And you just think, like, could this happen to me? Could this happen to you? I think that's the biggest thing that's on all of our minds. But one of the things that I think is probably, again, very, very, very interesting. I wonder if this is actually on YouTube. This is not on YouTube. And we're going to hear a little bit. This is NBC 10 Boston. They are talking about Trooper Michael Proctor. And I'm going to share this screen. Oh, of course, we're going to watch an ad.
We're as different as the cars we drive. What unites us is the pursuit of our next mile. Well, that's why we keep our engines better protected with Pennzoil Platinum. Innovative form.
We're going to not hear from Pennzoil Platinum. We'll just let it play. Sure. Okay. Oh, come on, dude. All right. I'll wait until it's done. We're not going to advertise for Pennzoil. Come on. Who do you think we are? All right. Here we go.
Trial, but still a day of some pretty major developments.
Yeah, this surveillance video from inside the Canton Police Department was called into question yesterday by Reed's lawyers. And prior to that, a major witness we could be hearing from, C10's Eli Rosenberg is live with reaction to that. It was a big discussion point on Canton Confidential. NBC 10's Eli Rosenberg is live with reaction to that video, plus news about a major witness we could be hearing from very soon. That is intriguing, Eli.
turn off that
Hey,
close.
Glenn, it's almost been a debate as long as the trial has been going on. Will jurors hear from Michael Proctor, the Mass State Police detective leading the investigation? We know the answer now is yes, per Karen Reed's attorneys. But we also talked with a defense attorney today. He's not affiliated with this case, but he says
this
if
is
Proctor
interesting.
was
What he
his
says.
client, the jurors wouldn't be hearing much from him.
I'm not Trooper Proctor.
It is a name we have heard over and over again during this trial. Michael Proctor, the Mass State Police detective who led the investigation into Boston police officer John O'Keefe's death. But it hasn't been clear until now if Proctor would take the stand.
What is unusual is even the question whether the lead investigator would be called or not during a homicide trial.
Did you see As we have learned from Reed's lawyers, Proctor will be a state's witness. Proctor called in to investigate O'Keefe's January 2022 death, with prosecutors alleging Reed hit O'Keefe with her SUV. This, as a former New York City prosecutor,
There's Mark Betterow.
Based on what is already
recognize him from my video.
Court, from the search of Reed's phone for compromising photos to text messages exchanged. If Proctor was his client, you wouldn't be hearing much from him when he's called to the stand.
If his lawyer believes that he's just going to tell the truth and he's being wrongfully attacked by the defense, so be it. I wouldn't be surprised in the least if his lawyer makes it clear to the court that he would make a blanket assertion of his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination on any substantive topic related to this case.
Chose this location.
And as the trial is wrapped for
and then they asked the governor what she thinks, which is wild too, by the way.
Another week, Governor Maura Healey weighing in briefly during an event this afternoon. You're the governor here, but you're also a resident. Are you following the Karen Reed trial like so many people in the community here?
And let me tell you something. Let me just add a little bit of colorful commentary here. She's like, I can't. She is literally like, I cannot believe, like, this is the last thing that I ever want to talk about on camera. You look how her whole demeanor just changes. It's brilliant.
But you're also a resident. Are you following the Karen Reed trial like so many people in the community here, getting updates like everyone seems so interested in it?
I've certainly followed it, but I'll leave that to others, and including MSP, to speak more about the trial.
It's just one of those oh shit moments. Like, I can't, like, you can just see. She's like, what are you doing, dude? Why are you asking me about this? Oh, man. Last things politicians want to do is be questioned about potential corruption, et cetera, et cetera. So, yes, as far as I know, by the way, I saw it here. KK, or I believe somebody said, wait, the prosecution is calling Proctor? Yes, that is what has been discussed on Friday, which begs the question, which I'm going to get into here in a second.
And more about that video Glenn talked about just a second ago that was shown in court yesterday afternoon. We're going to talk a lot more about that with these legal experts coming up tonight at 7 on Canton Confidential.
On Canton Confidential, right here on NBC 10 Boston. I love it. I think it's kind of funny. Canton Confidential, they're doing good work over there. So the thing is one of the things that has tied Michael Proctor to all of this, and what when I've discussed with people, like, why would he potentially be called, is, and I'm going to pull up the article here to share with y'all. Again, it's really hard to find anything about Michael Proctor right now. It's interesting how the interwebs have been scrubbed of like almost everything, because as someone who's been active in law enforcement for as long as he has been, it's weird that you can't find anything on the dude. I mean, not that I've gone all dark web or anything like that, because it's not my, I got way too much of a life for that. But there is it's very odd that you just can't like pull up information on him or even find a picture. Like, there's like 2 pictures, like this is one of them, and it came from a screen, from a screenshot from NBC or whatever station this is from. But there's one of the things that has come up, and this article is from the Boston Herald. And this is dated April 30th, 2023. And this is where his name comes up. And this is something that some people were thinking. And as I spoke to, again, I've got I spoke to a person and we've disguised their voice. It's coming out very soon. They were talking about this particular case. And that is the case of missing cohabitant mother of 3, Anna Walsh, who disappeared last New Year's Day, January 1st, 2023. And I remember when that story came out because people messaged me because my mother also disappeared on New Year's. She disappeared technically on New Year's Eve. But it was a lot of people found a lot of similarities and said, Collier, have you seen this? And I said, yeah, it's absolutely horrible. No remains have been found of hers. Her husband is currently serving time, I believe. Brian Walsh was arrested was originally arrested for running an art scam. He was selling fake art through some network out here in Los Angeles, ironically, selling fake paintings. He's a shifty character at best. But there's video of this guy buying things at Home Depot, like saws and bags and bleach and all this stuff and cleaning sponge. I mean, it's just really, really bad. And people suspect that he killed her in the basement and then disposed of her body in trash receptacles at a sewage plant, where you take trash from. What is the word? I'm trying to think of it. At a recycling plant or wherever you take garbage to, a landfill. Thank you. Landfill. And was disposed of like that. It's a very sad case. It's horrible. But one of the arresting officers, and I believe I'm going to have to see if I can pull this up. Brian Walsh arrest. Brian Walsh court photo. Michael Proctor. There was a photograph, I had it earlier, of Michael Proctor with Brian Walsh because he was one of the investigators on the Anna Walsh case. And one of the things that is brought up a lot of suspicion. So confirmed. So let me backtrack this a little bit. Again, this is April 30th, 2023. The detail is going to start kind of mid-article. The detail came in troves, in a trove of hundreds of pages of documents released from Quincy District Court, where Brian Walsh, 48, was initially charged on January 18th with the murder of his wife. After the case was moved up to Norfolk Superior Court in Dedham on Thursday. So this is April 30th, 2023. So a little over a year ago. Confirmed in those documents, and in particular, by MSP, Massachusetts State Trooper Michael Proctor's January 17th, so day before Brian Walsh was arrested, January 17th affidavit in support of an arrest warrant for Brian Walsh, where the affair prosecutors have suggested in court seems to be confirmed by the alleged lover. Now, this has something to do with Anna Walsh. Brian Walsh, as stated by prosecutors in Thursday's Superior Court arraignment, had in December suspected his wife was having an affair and had spent some time monitoring the Instagram page of one of Anna Walsh's male friends in Washington, D.C., where she had taken a job in early 2022 and had purchased a home with the expectation that the family would move there. So again, Michael Proctor has his hands very deep in the Anna Walsh case. And I think that is something that, to be honest, is probably not getting a lot of attention, but this begs the question of the following. Now, again, as I say, I am not a lawyer. I'm not a psychologist, and I do not work in law enforcement. I'm just a guy who's been through a lot of shit. You can watch the intro to the show. You'll learn about me. Check out the channel. But I want to take a moment to sort of indulge in a theory, a hypothesis that might be floating out there. And I think the crux of it starts on, is the prosecutor in this case in over his head? Is Lally in over his head? Lally, as you guys affectionately call him in the comments all the time, is the prosecutor in this case in over his head? And specifically, because it feels like when you watch this trial that this guy potentially might not be like, I don't know, enjoying his enjoying his time on working as a prosecutor in this particular case, and that he sort of feels very defeated and deflated in court. I think that it is a very interesting thing. And again, Michael Proctor is supposed to testify not this week, but potentially the week after. And it is something that is very it is something that begs the question: if he is over his head, he's a little bit over his skis, and if he is getting outside pressure, because a lot of people are alleging that this is the point where the defense really has the prosecution in their sights, because a lot of people speculate whether or not the prosecution even wants to really have Michael Proctor testify. And the fact that if he did come in to testify for the prosecution, that could, in a way, really affect this case against Brian Walsh in the murder of Anna Walsh, that he is, yet to be tried for, right? And then in effect, it would in a lot of ways domino a lot of the cases. And you saw this. So maybe 2 months back, I interviewed the team over at Orbit Media, that they just did a podcast called The Burden. And it is about Louis Scarcella, who was a New York City police detective back in the 80s and who put a lot of people in prison wrongfully. And how, when it came out that he was abusing his police power to get these convictions and manipulating witnesses, all the convictions started to domino and people were rightfully, obviously, released from prison. Some of them were already released from prison and then were exonerated later of the charges. It's a real thing that happens when people are convictions are, quote, overturned. They're still on the it's a whole thing. NPR just did a story about it today, or New York Magazine did a story about it today. I was listening to it on NPR, or the New Yorker, rather. The New York Radio Hour. That was what it was. But Louis Scarcella was able to get all these convictions against these people by intimidating witnesses, bribing witnesses, bringing in a very, very, very bad guy. Cat Loves Catskills had talked to me privately and said, hey, I knew of all these cases back in New York when they were happening. So again, I think this is just a theory. Again, I am not a lawyer, so do not take this. This is just complete. I'm being maybe a little hyperbolic, but I'm also hypothesizing of if they don't want Michael Proctor to testify, because therefore, as he already has his internal affairs investigation, which has been reported and is out there, there is talk, there's a lot of scuttlebutt around the fact that the feds are looking into his department, or the state troopers, or all these people in the Canton Police Department, and this entire case in general. Is he a liability for the prosecution? And this is something that's, again, this is total fantasy world, but could this maybe perhaps lead to charges being dropped against Karen Read? Now, I have no foundational basis for this whatsoever. This is just a what if. We are speculating here, but it got me kind of head scratching a little bit. And I'm thinking to myself, well, could the case get dropped? So we pulled up some data from the American Bar Association, and just to, charges being dropped, case dismissed, et cetera, et cetera. It's important to notice to note the difference between charges being dropped, which can be reinstated at any time, and a case dismissed, which is generally a permanent thing. Now, this is not a common occurrence, but United States prosecutors are ethically required to dismiss criminal charges if there is not sufficient evidence to support a conviction. The American Bar Association has stated, quote, a prosecutor has the responsibility of a minister of justice and not simply that of an advocate. This responsibility carries with it specific obligations to see that the defendant is accorded procedural justice and that guilt is decided upon the basis of sufficient evidence. Model Rule 3.8. The primary duty of the prosecutor is to seek justice within the bounds of the law, not merely to convict. The prosecutor serves the public interest and should act with integrity and balanced judgment to increase public safety, both by pursuing appropriate criminal charges of appropriate severity and by exercising discretion to not pursue criminal charges in appropriate circumstances. The ABA Criminal Justice Standard 3.1.2. After criminal charges are filed, a prosecutor should maintain them only if the prosecutor continues to reasonably believe that probable cause exists and that admissible evidence will be sufficient to support conviction beyond a reasonable doubt. Prosecutor's office should not file or maintain charges if it believes the defendant is innocent, no matter what the state of evidence, etc., etc. In the U.S., the charges would be dropped, the trial would be over, and the defendant would go free. If a jury had already been impaneled, the defendant could not be prosecuted again. Some of the most common reasons for dropping charges, which can be done at any point in the trial process, is that the prosecutor becomes aware of facts that exonerate the defendant. The prosecutor exercises his or her personal discretion and doesn't think the case merits further prosecution. The prosecutor is made aware of a serious legal problem with the case and knows it will not survive a motion to dismiss. And he doesn't think that the prosecution that prosecution is further merited. Other possible reasons can include the statute of limitations has expired, the defendant's constitutional right to a speedy trial has been violated, prosecutorial misconduct, witnesses are uncooperative, or the victim recants. Scientific analysis such as DNA test results reveals new information. The defendant has agreed to work with the government in exchange for dismissal, violation of double jeopardy clause, prosecutorial discretion. So again, this is all just hypothesis here. Because a lot of people have said, well, can't the trial just be thrown out? Can't they just drop all the charges and say she's innocent? Can a case just be dismissed and be reopened? It depends. If prosecutors dismissed the case without prejudice, they can refile charges at any time before the statute of limitations expires. That is, they can reopen it if they are to overcome whatever caused dismissal in the first place. If the case is dismissed, quote, with prejudice, the case is over permanently. The case cannot be refiled and you are in the clear. Again, this is coming from the American Bar Association. These are little quotes that they have. This is highly, highly, highly unlikely, but I thought it was interesting and worth maybe sort of floating out there because a lot of people have asked it. A lot of people have reached out and said, I don't understand this trial. I don't understand why they're prosecuting her. I don't get this. Could this really happen? And I think that as we've seen over the course of the trial, it really does feel like that the prosecutor is in over his head a little bit or is kind of defeated. And that's it. We will have trial coverage all week. So trial is dark on Tuesday, but we'll be here Monday, Wednesday through Friday to cover the trial of Karen Read here live with live discussion. Of course, my little Chihuahua Marisol will be joining us as well. And we have our little Marisol cam. And you guys can join us for more coverage. We will have obviously intense discussions in the chat below. Let me know what you think. Do you guys even think this is possible, plausible? It's a long shot. I just started thinking about it. People started asking me about it. I thought, hey, let's float it out there to all of y'all. I'm going to check out your comments right now too. Technically, both still could be true. She hit him and he went in for a Band-Aid. Speculation from Gen X Granny. Okay, I need to catch up on these comments. That's for sure. Sarah Nakamura says, I found it hard to believe that a DA would actually bring a case without beyond a reasonable doubt proof. I want to believe that in the Commonwealth, but my faith is long gone. And we still don't have a cause of death. Yeah, absolutely. That is a real thing. It is a very, very interesting thing. Lisa Bissell says, I want to see any forensic evidence by the expert about how he died, which is still don't have any of that. Or file any charges of it at all. The DA of LA County, believe me, they want to prosecute cut and dry cases in this county. I just started following this case a week ago, and I was confused about why after a few days I had no idea what was going on. Apparently it is because the prosecutor doesn't either. Yes, I think that is the big thing. It is absolutely wild what is going on. And Greg says the prosecutor is in too deep to drop charges. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's absolutely, completely. I think it's utterly fanciful that it'll actually happen. But I thought it was an interesting theory just to kind of float out there. Greg also says Proctor's going to need a doctor specializing in something kind of related to his land. That's great. Let's see what else. Thanks for the comments, guys. Thanks for the super stickers. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks for the membership. I greatly appreciate it. There's a lot here. Gil Kennedy says blue line collusion, conspiracy, and cover up. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. Absolutely. As Gen X Randy says, but the investigation is so sloppy and sketchy, they probably could have gotten her acquitted with that. Yeah, it's a thing. It just they even bungled the DUI. Yeah, there's a lot. There's just so much. There's so much as I continue to watch this. I just kind of go, it's left it's being head scratching. Sarah Nakamura says no dismissal in my opinion because the DA needs a guilty verdict, as that will help with them getting them off the hook with the federal investigation. Yeah, probably so. So they're probably going to push. It is. How are we 6 weeks in with zero actual facts? Yeah, it makes it as this is a head scratcher, guys. This is an absolute head scratcher. And yes, Cat loves cat skills. Let's keep in mind that this is all very sad for all of the families involved. John O'Keefe's family, who doesn't have any answers and who's literally watching this trial just become a circus. And also for Karen Reed's family as well, because they're just put through hell. And the community as a whole. It's a really, really, it's a mess. It's a mess. What can I say? But the mess will be here. As I said, we will be covering it all week right here on the channel. My little sidekick, Marisol, will join me as well. And we'll see you guys. We will see you during the week for that. There's our Marisol camera. She's not gonna pose for anyone right now. She's the queen. The queen is enjoying her beauty rest right now. Guys, you know, I know that this is such a polarizing case. I know this is such a wild story. But I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate you guys all being kind in the comments below. Be kind to one another, because that's really what this all is. Mover Nation, we are all here to be a supportive community, no matter what your opinion is, where you come from, who you are, what you look like, blah, 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 blah. We're here to support one another and have intellectual conversations. So please, thank you so much. Thank you so much for keeping it civil in the comments today. Thank you to all my channel moderators. Thank you to all my channel members and Patreon supporters, all of that, guys. But I'll cover that in the outro, which I'm going to play in a second. But I want to say, again, please join us this week for live coverage. I'm getting up super early. I live here on the West Coast, super early. 5 a.m. something, 4:30. I think I have my alarm set for, which means I'm going to go to bed in like 4 hours because I like to get my sleep. It's not happening. I'm already tired. I'm already tired just thinking about it. Mover Nation, we get through another one. Thanks. And please remember, guys, be kind to one another out there. Life is short. And, you know, we'll see you on the next one. Mover Nation, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much to all my channel members and Patreon supporters. And for more exclusive content, behind the scenes videos, monthly VIP meet and greets, and watch parties, please consider supporting me on Patreon or by becoming a YouTube channel member. If you like this video, check out this one right here or this one right here. And don't forget to like and subscribe because it helps with the algorithm. On that note, I'm Collier Landry. I'll see you on the next one. Good girl, Marisol. Good girl.